Welcome to Northumbria University's Big Top Tent. I'm Mark Bailey and I'm going to explain to you what it is we're hoping to achieve through our various activities in this year's Disruptive Innovation Festival. There are three simple questions we want to answer. The first, across our different disciplines, what is it that we know about circular economy? The second, how do we educate for a circular economy? And the third, when we've completed our various activities, we want to unpick what it is we have learned. To get us started, my colleague Dr. Nick Spencer is going to take you through our belief and our feelings about responsible innovation, that is, design-led responsible innovation.
Hi, my name's Nick Spencer. I'm an academic here at Northumbria University, and over the next 10 minutes or so, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our research that's to do with responsible innovation. So, who are we? We're a research group that's interested in design-led responsible innovation practice. We're based at the Northern Design Centre in Gateshead, and we're part of Northumbria University. What are we? We're a multidisciplinary team of academics and students who collaborate together with external organisations to try to solve some really thorny social and business challenges. So, obviously this is called responsible innovation. What on earth is that anyway? Which kind of feels really odd, because who aims for irresponsible innovation, right? So let's just dial that back, because innovation is one of those words that we hear all the time, and actually it's sometimes quite difficult to understand what it is we're talking about. So we've heard about incremental innovation. We've heard about disruptive innovation, transformative innovation. Almost strap on any kind of exciting word you want and put it next to innovation. So what is it we're talking about here? And what are we innovating? Are we talking about new products, new services, new systems, new infrastructure? Are we talking about new ways to tell consumer stories? Are we talking about finding different consumers or markets or sectors? What is it we're talking about? What is it we're innovating? Are we really talking about innovating new business models? Or fundamentally, are we here to ask the question, what is our business? And all of that's really important when we think about it in the context of responsible innovation. Yes, we think about new products, we think about new services, systems, infrastructure, business models, organizational structures, all of those things. They're all relevant. They're all the materials that we play with when we seek to innovate. But what makes it responsible, and what's our take on that? Well, for us, where we focus is on the network that all of those things are connected to. What are the consequences of the changes that we're proposing? The new products, the new narratives, the new stories, the new infrastructure. Who's connected to that? Who has influence of it? Who's impacted by it? Who gains? Who has the pains? How does that look like? What does that look like as a network? Can we deliberately design with the consequences of that network in mind? And is that a pathway to responsible innovation? So, whenever I have something really difficult to address, I always reach to Dr. Seuss, because clearly that's the fountain of all wisdom. Maybe not all wisdom, some, anyway. So, the Lorax, the fabulous story of the Once-Love. And I kind of think this is a nice story to illustrate what we're talking about here. responsible innovation. So, get into character. So, the Wansler was a kind of loved child within his family, but his family said, Wansler, son, you can't live here anymore. I'm going to talk around the story. The Wansler's family said, come on, it's time to make your way in the world, son. Go look for your opportunities for employment. Okay, said the Wansler. So he packed up his Wansler van, he put his tools in the back, and off he went. So he left his hometown, he left his family, he left the comfort of that network, and went out into the world to make his way. Become a Wansler in the world. And as he was travelling around, he came across a land. And he thought, this looks quite good. There's fabulous trees, there's beautiful countryside. This looks like a good place for me to set up. And he had a closer look at the trees, the truffle trees with their truffle tufts. And he found that those truffle tufts were softer than silk and had a beautiful kind of fragrance and smell. He thought to himself, well, I've got some skill. So he chopped down one of those truffle trees and he got the truffle tuft. He got the tools out of his van, he set up a little workshop at home, and he thought, right, I can apply my ingenuity, my skills and abilities. There's an abundant resource here, and I can make something that the world needs. That's surely responsible. So, what did he do? He got his stuff out of his van, he'd set up, and he converted this truffle tuft into a need. And we all know what a need is, don't we? A need's a thing that everybody needs. Amazing! So, this is somebody who's gone out into the world, found a gap in the market, he's created a value proposition, he's sort of got a business model going on, he's got skills and ingenuity and abundance of resource, he's created a thing that's needed. Well, that's responsible, isn't it? Well, enter the Lorax. The Lorax appeared out of the stump of the truffle tree that he had hacked to the ground and said, Wansler, what are you doing? Excuse me, who are you? Well, I am the Lorax. I speak for the trees. I speak for the trees because the trees cannot speak. Okay. What are you doing chopping down the truffle trees? He said, well, I've made a thing. I need something that everyone needs. And the Lorax said, no one will buy that, you fool. But along came a customer and bought it. I can't quite remember what he paid for it. $38.88, something like that. But he bought this thing. Oh, so clearly there is a market. So, and he sort of said, well, I'm not really causing any trouble. I've only chopped down one tree. There's no panic. Off you go, Lorax. Because he kind of had a business to develop and grow. Yes, he'd proved the principle. He'd made a product. He'd identified a market. He'd actually created a trade and a transaction. Made profit. Kind of responsible business, right? So, he got on his Wansler phone and he called his family, his brothers, his aunts, his uncles. He said, guys, we've got a super opportunity here. Get yourselves over. And he started building a bigger factory. His family arrived. He created employment. Well, that's kind of responsible, isn't it? And he actually started to establish an economy and build an infrastructure with a factory and different jobs and roles. And there was still a resource and a market and product to be made. He was making this thing. So, all of that's really responsible. So he did. He biggered his business. He set up factories. He generated employment, not only for his friends and family, but for other monsters that kind of got pulled in. But he was super innovative. His axe, that wasn't doing the job. Because if you're going to scale the business, he was limited. He was limited by the amount of resource he could get by chopping down truffle trees with only one axe. So he made a super deluxe 4-whacker chopper that could chop down 4 trees in one go. So brilliant! He could harvest extra resource. He could quadruple his production and sales and revenue and profit, and he could grow bigger. Responsible. That's how you grow a business. That's responsible, right? And the Lorax made various appearances, and because the truffler trees were being chopped down, and the truffler fruits that the Baba loops in their Baba suits ate were gone. They got crummies in their tummies and left. So, the environment was no longer suitable for them. It was suitable for his business, but not suitable for them. And the swans, the swami swans, their air wasn't so good anymore because of all of the factories that were smogging up the environment, so they kind of left too. And then finally, we realised that he had also poisoned all the waterways. And all the fish left as well. And then we heard that last flap as the last truffle tree fell to the floor. And all of a sudden, there was no resource anymore. And with no resource, there was no products to be made. There was no fleas to be made. There was no market we could serve. So all of his friends and his family all left because the business was over. So, it didn't really work out for the Wuxler. But it helps us to ask the question, when we think about responsible, for whom, for what are we responsible to? And how do we understand responsibility, responsible innovation in its broadest networked sense? And how do we achieve that? And there's some of the questions that we ask here. So, we believe that innovation is democratic, that it has a social conscience, that it's concerned with the impact and consequences of innovations. And all of that's dependent upon context. We're not saying that there is some sort of ultimate position that one can take around responsibility, responsible innovation. It's always context specific. And maybe the most responsible approach is to develop innovations with the networks that exist within the context we're considering. But how do you do that? So, what organisations come knocking on our door? It varies. Some are firmly commercial, some are social, some are community-based. There's a whole array. And why do they come knocking on our door? Well, maybe they're just bright and clever and know we can do some interesting stuff. Maybe they're stuck. Maybe they want to validate their own thinking. Maybe they're interested in learning a new approach. There's lots of reasons. But they come because they've got some complex challenges, some business critical challenges, or something that they're just not sure how to go about resolving it. And they work really closely with us and help us gain access to their networks so that we can apply our approaches with our multidisciplinary team of academics and students to figure out what responsible innovation means by co-creating those visions with their network to create a networked response. So what helps us to achieve this? Well, we think of 3 core elements to that. One is about closeness to stakeholders. because this seems to really affect the motivation of the creative teams. So there are some situations where that's easier to achieve than others. So when an organisation is regional or local, it's very easy for us to be in contact with the decision makers, to understand the reach of that organisation, and to gain contact and work with the network that exists. But when they're a global business, that's kind of more difficult. So how do you achieve closeness to stakeholders when those stakeholders and that network is vast, distributed globally, and complex? Achieving that is one of the things that we seek to establish. For us, another element that really helps is the leadership role that design can play. Our design approach is particularly good at helping form a common purpose and common language amongst that distributed network of stakeholders that allows everybody to align to a common goal, to create a community of purpose. Design's also particularly good, not only at coming up with ideas and propositions, but for facilitating those thoughts and those creative ideas amongst the network, providing the tools and the facilitation techniques that allows us to co-create as a network, to all be involved in that creative and critical process. And also we find that design-led innovation and a design-led approach aligns to some established dimensions about responsible innovation. And design does all of these things. Anticipation, it's inherently future-focused. It typically bases itself around a series of what-if questions and statements. The challenging ways that a context can be framed and understood, that it then investigates with new creative narratives, ideas, products, services, systems, infrastructures, whatever that might be. It's reflexive. It continually invites feedback by making its thoughts explicit and understandable, engageable, by making those materials available for the whole network to debate, to critique, to criticize and evaluate. It's inherently reflexive in its approach. We believe it's inclusive, and there's ways that you can open out the design approach to be more inclusive, and they're things that we emphasize. It's responsive. It learns. I mean, design is a learning process. And actually, ensuring that you are building in that learning process, not only in the stages when you're understanding, coming up with ideas, seeking feed-in and feedback around those ideas, but when you launch those ideas into the world, how are you constantly ensuring that you are able to learn to develop and adapt those things by gaining the broadest kind of feedback and critique that you can, evaluation through use. So, we propose adopting a design-led framework to ensure that responsible considerations are embedded within R&D approaches. And we also propose establishing deep empathy within whole stakeholder networks, and that by doing so, we can deliver responsible behaviours. So maybe a design-led framework for responsible innovation is made up of these different elements. Deepening empathy, dynamic mapping, consequence visioning, horizon toggling. And there's some of the things that we're going to explore with groups during this DIF Festival and in our specific challenge. So, For us, responsible innovation isn't an option. It's the only acceptable form of innovation. But how to achieve that? That's open to debate, and that's something that we're critically concerned with here at the Cumbria University. Right.